And I know this is a little bit late, but our last show was Thursday. But I will say this before we move on. Some of the things that former Vice President Joe Biden said, and my wife said this was surprising because I've always been an optimist when it comes to the United States of America. You can go back to when Obama was president. You can go back to some defeats that Donald Trump ran into, and I always said, look, we have checks and balances. It's going to get better. I've never had the hair on the back of my neck stand up and chills go down my spine as when Joe Biden said, it's not about your freedoms, it's not about your choice, and our patience is wearing thin. This is a really, really scary time. This is unprecedented. And I really hope that we're not looking back at this moment as the moment that the America we knew ceased to be. And I'm not being melodramatic about it. I've never said that on this show before. That speech to me and that mandate was absolutely a line in the sand. And that has nothing to do with your personal choice to get vaccinated or the science regarding COVID, which is, of course, a serious condition. All right, so let's, before we have Ben Shapiro on the show here, this is something I really wanted to talk about today. So right now, this is what we've been told, is trust the science. Mm-hmm. And by the way, science is something that changes, at least if you're trusting science, not the science. Right. That this is a pandemic entirely of the unvaccinated. And we just had the president basically wage war on anywhere from a quarter to a third of Americans, depending which statistics you use, blaming this pandemic on people who really initially, according to the science, should have no effect on those who are vaccinated. So this is also not true, and it's acknowledged to not be true right now. But let's start with the blame game and the bone-chilling thing. I've never been this scared for our country as when I listened to this speech live from former Vice President Joe Biden.
This is not about freedom or personal choice. Yes, my job as president is to protect all Americans. So tonight, I'm announcing that the Department of Labor is developing an emergency rule to require all employers with 100 or more employees that together employ over 80 million workers to ensure their workforces are fully vaccinated. This is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, and it's caused by the fact that despite America having unprecedented and successful vaccination program, despite the fact that for almost 5 months, free vaccines have been available in 80,000 different locations, we've been patient, but our patience is wearing thin. And your refusal has cost all of us.
I guess it's a good thing that nobody gives a shit. How about that? My patience is wearing thin. We offered it to you free, but when you didn't take it for free, we're going to force you to do this. This isn't about your freedom or your personal choice. Well, if former Vice President Joe Biden says so. This is and what is this? The Department of Labor. Yeah. At the same time, the CDC is the one who basically bypassed the courts with the eviction moratorium. Yeah. The Center for Disease Control is saying, landlords, you're still on the hook for the mortgage, and renters, doesn't matter if you're Michael Keaton in Pacific Heights, you can't be kicked out.
Yeah. Well, he's going around Congress both times.
He's going around Congress both times, and I will say this. Look, to people out there, now we have, a third of nurses?
Yeah.
A third of nurses who are going to walk on this job right now. That's a labor shortage. That is significant, right? Yeah. People are getting really upset with the vaccine mandates. And keep in mind that number is probably not going to change much because a large portion of people who are refusing to get the vaccine are people who've already had COVID, which is not even entered into this equation, former Vice President Joe Biden. It's vaccine. Well, what if I already had it? Well, you still got to get the vaccine anyway. But that's not common practice. That's not the norm here. That's not what the science tells us. But Fauci says we don't really know. So to be on the safe side, get a vaccine even though you already had the virus. Even though we don't necessarily know how your body reacts to that if it's already fought off the virus. Look, this is right now everyone out there. If you are working for a company and you have chosen not to be vaccinated for whatever reason, and this is a choice that everyone can make. I've advocated some people be vaccinated who I think are at risk. Yeah. And I think for some people, they choose not to, and it makes sense for them. Just to be clear, I don't know who is vaccinated and who is not in this office. Let me tell you why. Because it's none of my business. Just like the president has no right to tell companies that they have to force people to be vaccinated. This is over 80 million Americans. If you are in that company and you don't want, and you've chosen not to be vaccinated, don't do it. This is your line in the sand. I'm not saying don't get vaccinated. Just because, I'm saying if you already chose to, do not allow this pressure to change your decision. This is far beyond the pale. I've never had the hair on the back of my neck stand up as I did with, at least Barack Obama would cover it and talk about what a great nation this is.
Yeah.
You have a guy here saying it's not about your freedom or your choice. The people who just shrieked about a heartbeat bill, which there can be no debate about the fact that the law says you can't stop a heartbeat that's not your own. Evidence shows that it's disingenuous, given that as many as 1/3 recent vaccinations are among the vaccinated.
Yeah, to say that we have unprecedented results.
Right.
Makes no sense.
It makes absolutely no sense. Does one third of America have smallpox? Is 1/3 of America a Doc Holliday? TB right now?
I'm your huckleberry.
We actually have a perfect example of a case study. And this is something that I found interesting, and hat tip to there was some message boards that talked about this. In June, NBC, and I remember the story, declared a victory for the Blackfeet Nation, the guy on your flight.
Yeah.
Native American Blackfeet Nation achieved a 90.
Old dark toes.
I wear flip-flops because my ancestors shopped at PacSun. So Blackfeet Nation, they had achieved a 98% vaccination rate.
Wow.
This is from NBC. The CDC also attributed a 33-fold reduction in COVID-19 incidents in the Blackfeet Nation from October 2019 to November 2020. This is what they said: enforcement of stay-at-home orders and mandated use of face coverings in public with potential fines and jail, fines for being unmasked. So that's great. In other words, this was great. This was 98% vaccination. It was gone, and this was written about everywhere, despite being a small sample size, which, by the way, I will readily admit didn't stop NBC from running on the homepage, except now. It turns out COVID's back, and they've had to reissue mask mandates
what the heck?
after cases have surged.
Weird.
I'll be darned.
That's so sad to hear.
And actually, our next guest probably knows all about this. We won't bring him on right now, but the data from Israel is also reflecting a pretty damn concerning trend. So, as of August 31st, I want to make sure I'm reading this so I have it absolutely right. All sources are available at louderscrowder.com. All the references. You can go and read the entire articles for yourself if you are unemployed or retired. 78% of Israel's eligible population vaccinated. In August, half of the 600 Israeli COVID cases had received 2 shots of the vaccine. Half of them in hospitals, to be clear. Now, people say overall it's lower. Sure, but then Israel was saying, well, maybe we need to go with a 3rd booster. That might actually need to be policy right away. In June, the UK also reported 26 deaths among 4,087 cases of the fully vaccinated from February to June 2021 versus 34 deaths in 35,000 cases amongst the unvaccinated. As of August 16th, 60% of all gravely ill COVID patients in Israel were fully vaccinated. Now, I just came back now, I'm not saying that when you look at the data, it seems like vaccines seem to reduce the severity of it.
Right.
But that's not why most people out there were vaccinated. This is what matters. The goalposts move. People weren't told, hey, you'll get vaccinated. It'll be a 50-50 shot, but it won't be that bad.
Yeah.
So anyways, but Mayo, they do their, if anyone here wants to say, well, that's flawed, what I'm about to tell you, well, it comes from Mayo. This is a legitimate medical institution.
Yeah.
The best. I've talked about it. If you have something wrong with you and people can't figure it out, go to Mayo. I can't recommend them enough. So they did a study, and to be clear, the quality of the study. Let me read this. Cohorts of vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals from Minnesota, 25,589 each, matched on age, sex, race, history of prior SARS-CoV-2 PCR testing, and date of full vaccination. So they separated 25,000 each, fully vaccinated and not, and they found that the Pfizer vaccine was 42% effective against Delta infection in July. Moderna did a little bit better. That's like a Swiss cheese condom, folks. 42%.
Is that it's 58% not effective?
I just want to be clear on the math.
Just want to make sure I got
and
that
that's
right.
today, by the way, right? We've seen Israel's a month or two ahead of us, is what they say. We've seen this kind of reduce over time. We'll see where it bottoms out at, but that's today, or when the study was done. That's not.
Yeah, the Mayo study
now,
came from a little bit, I think, about a month ago.
About a month ago, yeah. So see
I
what
wonder
happens
why
to be
people
today.
might be a little hesitant.
So you have a country in Israel. There are a lot of people there. And then you have a study with 25,000 minimum. That's
big.
It might be 50,000 as far as, actually, if I'm reading this correctly. And that's across a variety of race, races, genders. I don't even know if they include a non-binary. Maybe that's the wonder of natural. Maybe everyone at the VMAs are immune.
True.
We just didn't know.
It's not anybody's
benefit.
COVID just shows up and goes,
Or they have a little bit of everything.
a little bit of everything.
I'm willing to bet.
It's just a witch's brew. If you've been vaccinated, you guys can comment below. It's one of the best things you can do for the algorithm. Smash that like button. If you've been vaccinated, what has your experience been like? If you've not been vaccinated, what has your experience been like? And I want to know if you have caught COVID or not, whether you are vaccinated or not. Just list your status and what happened. Because we now have a sample study of 50,000 people in an entire country in Israel. And this matters. Why does this matter? Because it matters how you move forward in a pandemic. It matters the steps that we take going forward if at least one of the vaccines is only 42% effective against the new variant. This matters. It's not anti-science to say, hey, these numbers are alarming and science is changing. What do we do? Don't just change the definition of protection from a vaccination.
Yeah.
We need to figure out the most effective way forward. But we can't because science has become a religion. And one of the tenets of that religion is this is a pandemic of the unvaccinated, despite the fact that many of you got that vaccine and you thought, well, you know what? At least I don't have to worry about the unvaccinated because I can't catch it.
Watch Louder with Crowder live, Monday through Thursday, 10 a.m. Eastern.